Okay, so welcome to my talk that started 2 minutes late, which is perfectly fine. I'm Peter van Voorde, or Peter van de Voorde, if you speak Dutch, and I'm a developer advocate at Classian. So, how the hell did I end up here? How did I start talking about things like remote working? Well, let's start with a little bit of history. A long time ago, there was a big bang. That was me opening a bottle of champagne when I finally got to work for my dream job at my dream company, namely developer advocate at Classian. And how did this happen? Because I did lots of things. I spoke at GeeCON in Krakow, for example, loved it. That's one of the reasons why I'm here. I love speaking at GeeCON. But since I did that, since I joined Atlassian 3 years and 1 month and 17 days ago, who's counting? I've been working remotely ever since. I was even hired remotely. I never saw anybody who was interviewing me in person until I already had my contract and signed it. I actually saw my manager and my new team for the first time in real life here in Prague at an Atlassian event we were having here, which was awesome. I also got my old manager to meet my new manager after I met my new manager for 5 minutes, which was awkward, but still. So, remote at Atlassian is actually pretty big. Atlassian is a 2,000-something company, and we have more than 400 people working remotely. We even have a remote office logo and t-shirts. So we are heavily invested in remote. And one of the things we do is show where we are. And as you can see, we're everywhere. We're still hiring people. We're still looking for new people and new places. We want to get somebody in Greenland, somebody in Antarctica, some people in Africa. We want to spread out across the world. Because great talent is everywhere. But great talent cannot always move to Sydney or to San Francisco or to Amsterdam. So why not just go where the talent is? So the question I hear a lot is, what do people actually think about remote working? What do they think it is? And of course, there's a meme for that. I hope it's readable, actually. Okay, that should be fine. So yeah, basically all of these things are kind of correct. We sometimes play games, we sometimes sleep out, we sometimes work from weird places. We actually do work a lot. We work sometimes in a coffee shop, but mostly we work at home. One other thing I want to make clear is that remote working is different than sometimes working from home. Remote working means you always work from home. And you might be in a different time zone than the other people on your team. Or your team might be spread around the world. Like my team is in Sydney, Manila, Belgium, New York, and San Francisco. So we're literally everywhere. I think we cover 20 time zones or something. So that's remote working. Having every Wednesday to be able to work from home is nice, but it doesn't present you with the same challenges and advantages as working fully remotely. Because you're still just going into the office for the social chatter or for the meetings. So, just to make clear. So, the dream. I was talking about the dream versus the reality. Let's start with the nice part first. The dream. And when I started thinking about wanting to work remotely, I had the dream of working remotely, being able to work everywhere. Being to focus more, spend less time on actually working, and spend more time with my kids. So, this is what I dreamt of. Basically, traveling around the world, sitting in really, really nice places, getting out my laptop and working. Or not working, whatever. And I've worked from some weird places like ski resorts in the Alps, trailer parks in the Netherlands, hotel rooms around the world, Sydney, Mountain View, Oregon, Prague, everywhere. Airbnbs, a beach in Barcelona, which was kind of interesting because it was like some parts of the beach had people with less clothes than normal on it. Weird, but still. And I even was working on the metro here in Prague when I was driving up to the conference venue because I needed to get some stuff done on my slides still. So you can pretty much work everywhere. I was hoping for a 4-hour work week. It's a book, it's a principle, It's really cool, and some people think, well, if you go remote, you can work so focused, you can do all of your job inside of 4 hours. But it is the dream. And I was dreaming of spending more time with my kids and my wife. This has actually been taken this summer when we visited Prague as a family. It's on the Charles Bridge. And, well, reality. Reality is a bitch. It creeps up on you. It's there all the time. You can't turn it off. Reality is, we mostly work, if you're remote, you mostly work from your home office. And this is not mine. This is one of my coworkers' home office, because mine is currently under renovation. But it basically is a t-shirt wall with all of our Classian t-shirts, because we have so many. It's your laptop, it's a desk, that's about it. And that's where you work most of the time. We even have a Trello where we share all of our remote battle stations, we call them. And all tips and tricks on which kind of screens are the best, which kinds of chairs are the best, which kinds of headphones, microphones, those kind of things. But it's not as fancy as working in the Australian outback or on a beach in Barcelona or somewhere in Thailand next to really beautiful temples or those kind of things. Also, 4-hour work week, not happening. I still work around 40 hours a week. Sometimes less, sometimes more. It depends. But I do spend more time with my kids. I actually spend, I think, 4 to 5 hours a day now with my kids, actual quality time. So sometimes the reality and dream actually pretty much match up. But for this, I also have to trade in the fact that I work late nights. I sometimes work till midnight. And all of my meetings are in the evening because I sync up with the US. And sometimes even with Australia, which is like, their early morning is my really late night. But then again, I'm living my dream job. I'm doing something I love to do. And I can do it from my home. So let me share a single day in my life. Just so you have an idea of how this works. So I wake up at 7, which is late for me. I used to wake up at 6 because I need to get to work by 7:30. And I get myself ready. I get my kids ready for school, make them breakfast, make sure they actually brush their teeth, get to school in time, which is sometimes a challenge. If you have kids, you can understand this. And then around 9, I start working. And between 9 and 3 in the afternoon, I do some focus time. So I do like the Pomodoro technique, and I spend some real time focused on a single problem, figuring things out. I also take time to actually grab a decent lunch and sometimes do some exercising or go out for a run or a walk. At 3, I stop working and I pick up my kids from school and daycare. Then I start playing with them. We make homework, we play, we make dinner, get them ready for bed, and I put them into bed. And then at 8 in the evening, I start working again. And that's when most people are like, oh, what? You do work in the evenings? Yes, I work 4 evenings out of 5 in the week. And I work sometimes till midnight. And most of that time is actually being spent with headphones and video calls, because I need to sync with my team and with others in the US and in Australia. So I have a piece of time, a block of time where I can focus, and I have a block of time for meetings. And then you start talking to people about the fact that, well, it's almost 11 p.m. and it's still light outside because we're so northerly. And then the people in the US are like, whoa, so cool. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Or those kinds of things happen. So let's talk about the upside of working remotely. No commute. I used to spend at least 2 hours a day in my car, standing still, trying to get somewhere else. Why? Because I then just could open my laptop, connect to the internet, and do stuff online. I no longer do this. My commute is 5 seconds. And that really frees up time to do other stuff. You can basically work from anywhere. Some of you are working right now. You have your laptop open, you have your phone open, you're working from a cinema. Why not? You can work from coffee shops, but you can also work from beaches, you can work from anywhere around the world, as long as there's Wi-Fi. Important distinction. Like in the middle of the Gobi Desert, I don't think you can get Wi-Fi there. But still, you can try, maybe satellite connection, whatever. We actually had a senior Confluence developer working from a caravan on the Scottish Highlands for a year. Just because he wanted to. So it is all possible. You are in charge of your own schedule. I chose for my split time because I wanted to spend more time with my kids and my family. I have 3 kids. The eldest is 7, the youngest is almost 2. This is the time in my life I need to spend time with my kids. I need to connect with them. Not when they're 15 or 16 or in their 20s and when I'm retired. No, this is the moment in time I need to do this. So that's why I chose for the split life. That's why I manage my meetings around my personal life, actually. If I need to go to the dentist, I'll just block it off in my calendar. If I need to go to a doctor, same thing. If I need to get my car fixed, all of those things, it happens, it's fine. Because you are the master of your schedule. Yes, you sometimes need to have overlapping moments with your coworkers or with other teams. But those are small moments of time. It's not like a boss telling you, you have to be here at 8 and you can't leave before 5. And owe you if you don't do that. No. You master your own schedule. You master how you work when you work. You control your workspace. Maybe you're a heavy metal fan and you love really, really loud music. I'm a metal fan, so I like those kind of things. Or you like classical music, I don't care. And you want to listen to it, you want to immerse yourself into it. That's difficult in a regular office. Like, you can probably try it and just blast it to your speakers. Nobody is going to appreciate this. But in your own workspace, who cares? Go ahead. Same with how you set it up. Do you want to have 6 monitors on your wall and be like Matrix style? Why not? Keyboard, chair. Like, do you want to do a big mural on your wall, or do you want to hang up all of the first edition comic books you have? Why not? Go for it. You are in control of your workspace. Just be aware that if you're on a video call, people can see what's happening behind you, or what's hanging behind you, just so you know. They cannot see what's behind the screen, so it's always interesting to hang something funny there. Like, for example, I know somebody who actually has a television behind his screen, constantly playing news on a low volume, simply because he needs to have like the white noise and people talking, but he's not actually paying attention to it. But sometimes when something happens during a video call with this person, you actually see them switch over like, okay, they're no longer looking at us, there's something's happening. The thing with working remotely is there are less people distracting you. When you're in your home office, it's just you. When you're in an open office or just a regular office, people walk by your desk, people want to talk to you. There's always something distracting you. At home, you can have your focus time, just you, focused on it with your music or whatever, doing stuff. Which leads me into this. Better time to focus, and you could be surprised how much stuff you can do in 30 minutes when you truly focus. So those are a number of the upsides. There are others, but these are some of the ones that apply to me mostly. So there are a number of downsides too, of course. Once again, reality kicks in. Loneliness is an important one. If you're fully remote like me, you always work alone. You're always alone. There's nobody you can just touch and say like, okay, can we chat about this? Or how do you feel about this? Or just, how do you feel about grabbing a coffee? You sometimes feel disconnected from your company, from the teams. You can feel really lonely. And that's something you need to be aware of. And there are several things you can do about this, and I'll talk about this later, to make sure that this doesn't happen to you. Work, family. They call it a balance. If you work remotely, it's more like an integration. Because, well, work and family are basically in the same building and sometimes happening at the same moment. And finding the right balance or finding the right integration is really difficult and challenging. Because your work laptop is sitting on your kitchen counter. It's open, chat is happening, and especially if you're working with people in different time zones, they'll wake up at like my dinner time. So they're pinging like, oh, Peter, can you do this? Or Peter, how's this going? And in the beginning, I started answering those things. And I started answering them on my phone and started reading. As soon as I got out of bed, I started reading all the messages I got from Sydney. And when I went to sleep, I still read the messages I got from the US. And it took me almost 2 years to really realize this, how much this was impacting my family. And I had a big fight about it with my wife, really big. But we figured it out. And one of the things I did was I cleaned up my phone, and there's nothing work-related on my phone, unless I travel for business. So, and I always, as soon as it hits 3 o'clock, I close my laptop, and it's gone. And I only open it again at 8. And I try to do this. I sometimes fail because I'm human and humans fail. But it helped me reconnect with my family. It helped me refigure the integration, the work-life integration, the work-life balance. But it's something tricky, and as a remote, it's really close. You don't have a commute where you can lock it off and say like, okay, I'm now out of the office, I'm home. No, you're always home. Same thing with kids. I might be in a meeting and my kids might be running around. So I have to tell them, you need to be quiet now because daddy cannot play with you because daddy is in a meeting. And sometimes the kids are in a meeting too. Those kind of things happen, like this. I've had a couple of these moments. The first one was with, so we have 2 founders in Atlassian, Scott Farquhar and Mike Cannon-Brooks. Scott and MCB, we call them. And my team had a meeting with Scott. So he's one of my heroes. I was a bit nervous for this. And of course, being remote, it was a video meeting. And Scott was asking questions to all the team members. And at a certain point, he was asking a question to me. And I had to say the following. One moment, please. Picked up one of my kids and said, this is Aaron. He wants to say hi. Can you please repeat your question because I couldn't understand you because he was nagging at my desk. And Scott was like, oh, how old is he? I was like, he's 2 years old. Oh, I have a 2-year-old. I get it. Hi, Aaron. And then my kid actually sat on my lap for the entire meeting. Was quiet. But those things tend to happen. Like you've got an interview on the BBC. And then suddenly your kids drop in. And you have to shove them out of the way. Those kind of things. But it happens. We're people. We understand it. It's okay. Sometimes you can also just lock your door if you actually have an home office with a door. People don't see you working. The one advantage of being in an office is you're there. Like your boss can see that you're working. Maybe you're on Facebook. Maybe you're daydreaming about working remote from a beach in, I don't know, Thailand. He doesn't know, but he sees that you're at your desk, so you must be working. That doesn't work when you're remote. People don't see you working. So it's sometimes people think, well, yeah, they're just goofing off. They're not doing anything. This is something you as a remote worker needs to make sure you actually show people that you're working, like comments on issues, talking in Slack channels or in HipChat channels, updating pages on your wiki, all of those things, doing video calls. Make sure you're visible. It's more important being remote than in the office. In the office, you're always visible. Even if you're doing nothing, you're visible and you look like you're working. FOMO, fear of missing out. You miss stuff if you're remote because hallway conversations happen in the office. Cool events happen in the office. Suddenly, people you've been working with quit and you didn't know. Like I had this happen recently. I'm one of our remote ship it organizers, and one of the other ones just disappeared. I didn't know why, didn't know when did it happen, but suddenly he wasn't there anymore. So FOMO is something real as a remote worker. You are afraid of missing out on certain important things that are happening in your company. Once again, there are ways to manage this, there are ways to handle this, and I'll talk about those later. Another one is being the odd one out. If you're the only one in your team working remotely, it feels weird. Everybody's sitting together in the office, having fun, and you're out there somewhere else. And that's something that's difficult to handle if you're the only remote on the team, but that's why your team should be remote first instead of just having one person remote. It can work out, but then you need clear structure and processes. And I was talking about there are less distractions at home. There are less office distractions at home, but there are more personal distractions at home. How easy is it if you can just put in laundry during, like in between meetings, or quickly do the dirty dishes, or just go do a walk, or walk around the block with the dog, or clean up the kids' mess. All of those things can happen and can still distract you from work. So you need to make clear separation of time. This is my work time. This is my chore time. And less social contacts. So if you work from home, some people actually stay in their houses for days on end. Simply because they have everything they need there. They have their laptop, they have food, they have drinks. What else do you need? You need social contact. As a remote, this is something you also need to be aware of. Like, you need social contacts with other remotes, you need social contact with your company, with your coworkers, and you also need social contacts out there. Simply with people at the gym, others at school, those kind of things. And this is an actual party, picture of one of our Atlassian parties, but we normally don't dress up for parties. But we have something, so Atlassian in Sydney is in the central business district, which is where all the banks are. So we show up in shorts, flip-flops, and t-shirts, and everybody else shows up in business and suits. So we stand out. But they do casual Fridays, so we do formal Fridays. So then we show up in nicely dressed up and those kind of things, just because we can. So, can we fix all of these downsides? Yes, we can. Working remotely is still working together. So one of the things we've learned as Atlassian from when we acquired Trello was working remotely works best if remote is put first. At Trello, as soon as one person is remote, everybody is being considered remote. They basically, if they have a video call and there's a single remote person on the call, not everybody else is not in a big meeting room sitting around a table and then the giant face on the wall is the person remote. No, everybody logs in to their video call conference tool from their desks, and everybody is equal on an equal setting. It's easier to read body language, and it's easier to work together. So the thing is, remote first teams. If you want to start working remotely, figure out a way to get your entire team to be remotely. It can still be with some people in the office, but that the way you work, the processes you use are remote friendly and remote first. And it is a challenge. It's something you need to learn. It's something you need to work on. It's something you need to practice and iterate on. Do remote events. I mentioned remote ship it. Does anybody here know what a ship it is? We used to call them FedEx days. It's basically every single quarter we do a 24-hour hackathon. Everybody in the company can work on anything they want with anybody. And it used to be only in the offices. And as a remote employee, you could only participate if you happened to be in the office at that time. I actually traveled to Amsterdam once just so I could participate. We started, myself, another remote coworker of mine, and somebody else, started doing remote ship-its a year ago. Because we wanted to have our own thing. Wanted to do it our way, the remote way. And it was fun. So every ship-it, at the end of when all the offices did it, 1 week later, our founders actually picked their founder winner. And our remote ship-it winners actually won this 3 out of 5 times in the last 5 ship-its. So we're doing something right. And more people want to join our remote ship-it because it's more fun. Anyway. Another event we are doing is every year we have a big bash, which is basically we get out of the office with all the teams and we do something fun. This can be, like if you look up Atlassian Big Bash on YouTube, you'll find things like medieval knights playing Knight in Shining Armor and castle, attacking castles. We've done giant inflatable runs and those kind of things. This time we also did a remote Big Bash, which was focused on our remote people, was remote friendly, and you could actually do it from inside your home office. It was a puzzle game. You needed to figure out 20 puzzles inside of 45 minutes, then do something with those results, and then you finally got something fun. It was cool. It was fun. It gets the remote people involved with your company culture. It gets them involved with each other. They get to learn each other. What you could do also, especially against the loneliness, is sometimes work at co-working spaces. Every big city has them. You can rent out a desk for a day, for a couple of hours. They've got all the facilities you need, but it allows you to socialize with other people working remotely, or with just other people working in development and design, or whatever. You might actually meet really interesting people doing really interesting stuff you had never heard about. But it helps you with the social aspect. A lot of co-working spaces also do social events. Go to meetups, go to conferences, go to user groups. Get out of your house and talk to people, talk to actual people, connect yourself, network. It's important. Use the right tools. So what do I mean with using the right tools? Well, a good home office setup is important. Yes, you can have an amazing set of speakers with great sound quality, but you also need a really good chair, really good desk, maybe one that you can actually turn into a standing desk and then put a treadmill underneath, like Dimitri's told us in their stress-driven development talk. All of those things, but it needs to be high quality. You need to have good headphones. If you want to talk to people, you need to have a decent microphone for your video conference. You need to have maybe some extra lighting so people can actually see you and don't just see a black screen with 2 white eyes in it. All of those things are important, trust me. I've been there. Have a great video conference tool. We currently at Atlassian use both Zoom and BlueJeans. Both of them have their advantages and their disadvantages, but find something that works for you. A video conference tool should be able to easily share your screen, easily record stuff, and easily set everybody on the same footing. Like this screen, you can basically see everybody's equal. Everybody is just as big as everybody else. And that's important because if you're the small screen and then there's a big room with a number of people in it, that doesn't really work. Have a chat tool. I know somebody mentioned during their talk before this, I wasn't there, that chat is evil. You shouldn't do it in chat, you should do it in issue tracking. Still, chat, especially as remote, is basically where you socialize. We have chat rooms about everything, from cooking to board games to favorite sport teams to all of those things. And yes, this is the GeeCON Slack. And yes, you're in there. Wonderful. But yeah, chat is important, especially as a remote worker. You want to know what's happening. You want to have the off-topic banter. You want to have all the nitty little details and things that are happening in the office. And it's searchable, so you can still, like, if you come back from 2 weeks of vacation, you can just scroll back and see what happened. All of those things. Have an issue tracker. Jira is a great one. You've got Trello, you've got other ones. I don't care. Well, I do care, but still, you know what I mean. An issue tracker is important to follow up on your tasks. It's also a good way to be visible. If you're actually moving tasks on a Scrum board, on a Kanban board, or whatever you're using, this shows other people in your team and other people in your company that you're working on things, and it shows what you're working on. So also, clearly explain what you're doing. Don't just say, prepare a talk as a topic, but say, okay, I need to prepare a talk about working remotely, and I need to do this for GeeCON Prague, which is an awesome conference, and I want to speak there. Those kind of things. Explain why you're doing this and what you're doing in clear detail. Don't make any assumption about what people know, that people know what you're doing. And then it's visible. And have your entire team do this, and then you, once again, as a remote employee, can see, okay, what did my team do when I was offline? What's happening here? What did they talk about? What's working? What's being blocked? All of those things. Use a wiki. Once again, Confluence is an option. You've got others out there too. Of course, we use Confluence. A wiki is your single source of truth for anything that's bigger than just an issue. It's your documentation, it's your processes, it's your blog posts. One of the things I actually did after I had that big fight with my wife about me not being there is I wrote a blog post called How I Stopped Worrying and Loved the Silence. Shared it with the entire company. And it was basically about how I turned off every single notification from my work on my cell phone and started closing my laptop. And people start talking about this. And there are other topics in here that are not work-related. People talk about their family lives. People talk about the challenges they're facing around having parents with dementia. They're talking about things like equal opportunities. They talk about unconscious bias. All of those things are important, and all of those things are happening inside our wiki, inside Confluence. And it helps you to connect to the organization, to connect to the company, and learn about new people, learn about new things. So definitely have something like this. Use your calendar. So in the beginning, I had to explain to everybody what my working hours were. And they were still blocking time all the time. Like, oh, well, just here's a meeting request at 6 p.m., which is dinner time. I'm like, I can't do this. Why not? I'm in Belgium. It's dinner time. So, no, well, whatever. So I had to say no an enormous amount of time. So now I actually blocked out time in my calendar saying no meeting time. And I automatically decline any single meeting that's in this time. I don't even care about it. Nope, not attending. Sometimes I still do meetings, but then people actually approach me through our chat tool, say, we really need you to be in this meeting and it's the only available slot for all of these people. Can you please come? And then I'll try. But then I'll also tell them, well, it's going to be me and my 3 boys. Just so you know. And then, of course, they show up and say hi and those kind of things. So most of my coworkers already know my family, simply through video chat. But your calendar is an important tool in making sure that you've got your life and your work-life balance right. What else can help? Travel. You want to get out of the house. And honestly, you need to meet your team in person. Like I said, my team is in Sydney, is in Manila, it's here in Europe, we're in the US. We see each other every single week through video chat, but we also try to meet up at least once a quarter in real life. So this is actually the Atlassian, one of the Atlassian offices in Sydney. I saw you recognizing it. And so yeah, we try to do what we call offsite, onsite. So we actually travel to an Atlassian office and there connect with our team and with other teams. So next step is actually visit your office. Go there, talk to the people there, meet the new people at the office, catch up with the old people at the office, all of those things. Hell, visit the new office because we're soon going to have a new one in San Francisco. I'm already looking forward to seeing it. And reconnect with your company values. Atlassian is, I would call it famous almost for their Atlassian values. And visiting the office, seeing your team in person and actually spending the entire day with them, doing activities in the evening, really that's to reconnect to your values. So what teams work best remotely? Because some teams will work better remotely than other ones. Full remote teams, that's easy. If everybody's remote, everybody's equal. There's nobody who's in the office and more in the know. No, that's easy. Teams with independent tasks. What do I mean? Teams that have low dependency on other teams or that have clearly defined tasks for their team members. For example, in my team, developer experience, Ralph is responsible for all developer communications. I'm responsible for developer events and developer community. Somebody else is responsible for developer documentation and getting it up to date and those kind of things and helping out the teams to get it up to date. This allows us to spend our focus time really working on stuff we can do. And then if we need to depend on others, we can use our meeting time to do these kind of things. It's not like we are stuck if nobody else is online. Those things help when you want to work remotely. Experience. Working remotely is not for everybody, and especially if you're new to software development or just new to work, and you just came from university or college or school, you might want to go into an office environment first for a couple of years, just to get the basics right, understand how things work, get some project management skills. Because if you don't have this experience, and then you suddenly are all alone at home, needing to figure out all these things, it's going to be really difficult. So if you want to have a remote team, try to get a team that already has experience for at least 5 or 6 years. So, still have some time left. As a conclusion, it can be amazing. For me, working remotely has been challenging, but also amazing. I'm much more connected to my kids than I used to be, and that's one of the main reasons I did it. And I'm connected to a global network of amazing people who challenge me every single day. I have fun in my job. I love doing my job. I get paid to do my job, and I still spend more time with my kids. So it can be amazing, but you just need to make sure you set the boundaries and have the right processes. It's not without risks. You can get lonely. Sometimes you need to work till the middle of the night. Sometimes you lose the balance between work and life. All of those things are out there. You need to watch out for them. But if you're aware of them, you can plan for them and you can recognize them earlier. You need to find the right team and right company. Not everybody is already ready for remote working. Remote working is here and it's here to stay. It's not going away. It's probably going to be more and more happening everywhere. But at this time, some companies are great at remote working. Others are struggling with it or even completely against it. If you want to do remote working, find the right company. Don't go work for a really old school company and then say, I want to work fully remote from a beach in Ibiza. That's not going to work. Use the right tools. Find the tools that work for you and your team, for you and your company. Invest in them. Make sure everybody's trained up on them and use them. Connect with other remote workers. Find where other remote workers are, either in your company or outside of your company. Connect with them, talk with them, share stories. We have remote social channels in our chat. Hell, I just told them 10 minutes before this talk I was going to do a talk about remote working. And 2 people were like, oh yeah, let us know how it went. And of course, every single presentation should have a one more thing. Well, at least in my opinion, at least if you're doing a developer presentation. So, focus on your values. They're your guide for everything you do. And for me, my values closely relate to the Atlassian values. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to work for Atlassian. So I'm going to walk you through them and how they actually apply to remote work. So our first one is open company, no bullshit. And when you are remote, you need to be open and outspoken. There's no time for bullshit because time with other people is limited to your video call. You can't take your time and then approach them at the coffee table or the coffee maker or during lunch. No, be open, don't speak bullshit, be honest. Being remote is not being alone. It's actually, if you're working remote, you need to play as a team even more than when you're in the office. You need to always connect with your team or the teams you're working with. You need to always be conscious of what's everybody else doing. How can I contribute? How can we create value for our company, for our business, for our customers, for ourselves? The most important one for a remote worker, build with heart and balance. There needs to be the right balance, the right integration between your family life and your work life. It's so close together, you need to make sure there's the right balance because otherwise you're going to lose. Big time. Be the change you seek. If you see something that's wrong, fix it. As a remote, that's even more important because you're educating your entire company on how remote works, on how it works for you, for other remotees. One of the examples here was we started our own remote Ship It, simply because we wanted to do it our way, so it works for remote people. We wanted to get remote t-shirts. We got them. We want to have representation next to the other offices. We got it, but we had to fight for it. We had to ask for it. We had to be no bullshitting about it. We had to be the change we seek. And the last one, don't fuck the customer. Yes, they now say don't fool the customer. It used to be actual say the word fuck, but it's still one of our most famous values. It's your customer here as a remote worker is not just the person buying your software. Your customers are your team, your family, it's your health. Don't fuck those. Make sure you've got the right balance. Make sure you invest time. Make sure you invest resources you have in all of those. Because it's your life. And if you fuck it up, it's fucked up. So don't do it. I said the F word way too much. Whatever, it's Europe, it's okay. So, on that note, any questions? Yes.
So you have three children, so I'm guessing that setting boundaries was a problem at the beginning. How did you go about it?
I'm still working on it because my youngest is almost 2, so he doesn't know what boundaries are. There are things to cross over and whatever. I try to tell them, well, first off, I make sure that most of the time they're at home and awake. I actually don't work. But if I do work, I clearly tell them, like, okay, Daddy has the headphones on, Daddy is working. Or when my oldest is in his bed but still reading a book or something and I already have a meeting, I tell them, like, if you call for me, I won't show up because I'm in a meeting. If you need something, you can come downstairs, ask it, and I'll give it to you, and then you can go back upstairs. It's all about setting expectations, setting rules, but then again, it only works once they're like 4 or 5. Before that, it's just, once again, no open company, no bullshit. Be open and tell them, like, okay, my kids are currently awake if you have this meeting. They might just walk into the picture, and that's okay. Any other questions? Yes, there's one over there.
Hello. Basically, I also had a fight with my company. You said that I shouldn't push working remotely with some old school people. And when we discussed this, they told that there were some studies that basically local teams can be more effective than the remote ones. So I'm not sure if you can even benchmark this, but can you really tell if remote working with partially remote people or fully remote people can affect the productiveness of a team?
There are a lot of things that can affect productiveness of the team. It could be that the team works better together. It depends on first the goal of the team. What are you actually doing? What are you building? It also depends on the skills you need in your team. What if you can't find those skills locally, but you can find them remotely? Then that team will be more effective if you work remotely. There are a lot of different aspects to this, and it depends on those kind of things. Yes, a co-hosted team that's in a single room, that's working on a single product can work really, really effective. If you have a remote team that has great processes, that has experience, that has the right skill sets you need, it can be just as effective. It's just a different way of working. They won't be all in the office between 9 and 5, but they might be actually working 24 hours on your product. It's just a different way of handing over stuff. It's a different way of communicating. And a lot of the things I see in the comparisons between located teams and remote teams is that people just say, okay, we're going to take this team, make it remote, but we're not going to change anything about the processes, the tools, whatever we expect of them. And of course, then the remote team is going to be less productive because they still need to work from 9 to 5, but just remotely, and they still need to use basic tools and don't have remote-friendly tools. And then, of course, their productiveness is going down. At Atlassian, we've noticed that if your teams go truly remote, they're actually more productive. But then again, this is not we can't get this into a white paper or anything yet, but it's something we've been noticing. But it all depends on processes and the people who need to have the right skills.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I have a question. Because you said that you spend 1 or 2 hours driving car to the company, you can take this as an advantage. Because, for example, if you spend 1 hour in a tram or in a bus, you can read a book, you can listen audiobook, podcast, and now do you have a time for it?
So actually make time for those kind of things. First off, I try to take my kids to school every single morning, so I get out of the house, and it's kind of my commute. I walk around the corner, there's the school, I walk back, I'm at my work. But I try to book time to read things. I can actually say, okay, I want to invest in myself, I want to learn something, and that's good for myself, it's good for my company, so why shouldn't I take an hour a day or 30 minutes a day to actually do something, read something? Similar with doing exercise. I've been lacking at it lately, but I need to step again. But getting healthy and then staying healthy helps you to stay more focused. So why shouldn't you do it? Because if you're more focused, you can actually do better work in less time. How many of us don't spend like 8 hours or even 10 hours at our computers and we didn't do anything? Simply because we weren't focused, we were tired, we wanted to actually do something else. Why don't you just go do that something else and then come back happy and focused? It's a different way of looking at things. And that's something, when you work remotely, you've got way more input on this, and you've got way more ways to get this into your daily routine. But then again, you need to be conscious about this, and you need to make time for this. Any other questions? Yes, here in the middle.
Thanks. Why you decide to spend 10 hours at work instead of 8 hours? Because you are working from 9 to 3 and from 8 to midnight.
Because I don't work on Friday evenings. So I wanted to make sure I got the right amount of time to spend on work. And also, those are my hours I'm available for meetings. Those are not always my hours I work. Sometimes I only work 30 hours a week or even less, depending on things. Sometimes I work more. It depends on the workload. It depends on the things that are happening. Like if we got a big event coming up real soon, I might work some more. After the event, I'll work less. It all depends on goals, tasks, and those kind of things, which of course I also have an impact on deciding what are our tasks and our goals. So yeah, does it answer the question? Okay. Anybody else? No, then that's it. Thank you very much. Oh, one more question? Yep. Yes, perfect.
And okay, because you said that you can have 3 Fridays. It's also possibility like flexible, like work also at weekends, for example, instead of few other days.
Sure, why not? Okay. If it works for you, why not? If your company agrees with it, if you have different tasks and things you can do, and basically if you work for a global company, only like Saturday afternoon and Sunday morning is off because Sydney starts around my Sunday afternoon and San Francisco ends my Saturday morning. So in theory, even if you need to do meetings and those kind of things, it's probably possible. So yeah, sure. Working remotely doesn't mean you need to stay to the 5/7, like 5 days work, 2 days weekend. You can play around with it. I sometimes travel over the weekends and I actually take days in the week off as my weekends afterwards. So once again, it's the process, it's how you work as a team, it's what you decide as your team, as your company, that your values are, what you want to achieve and how you're going to achieve it. If you say weekend work is fine, just make sure you take your time off because that's important for your life-work balance, then it's okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, one more question over there now. Thank you for asking all these questions, by the way.
Okay, so my question is, how important is being able to talk face-to-face to a person and being able to get an immediate answer right when you need it? Because I have noticed probably in the remote work you have much more asynchronous conversations than synchronous. And can you really play around this and have synchronous conversations when you need them?
So yes, you can. You can have synchronous conversations if you need them. Those are the one, you want to make sure you've got some time that overlaps with the teams you want to talk to. That's for me, that's my evenings. But it also depends on your process. If your process supports asynchronous communication, like through tickets, through wikis, through chat, then it's not going to be a big problem. It's about setting expectations. It's instant messaging. It's not instant replying. You can send a message to somebody and they're going to get it instantly. You shouldn't be expecting an instant reply. If it's so important, set a meeting for it. Make a video call. That's how we do it. I have video calls of 5 minutes if I really need to get some answer and some things out straight there. And it's basically what you would do in an office is you would walk over to their desk and ask them directly. It's a different way of using your tools once again. But a lot of the things people think should be synchronous shouldn't be. They can perfectly be asynchronous.
So I guess that even, for example, your progress is blocked by lack of knowledge, which you can get from another colleague, then you can have different tasks in your queue, which you can work on while you wait for an answer.
Yes, and you can also, you should try to, if you're looking at a task and you're going to start it and you know already in the front that you're going to get blocked by this, plan it that you only start on this task when this colleague is available. Or maybe actually once again set up a meeting to go over this task and work on it together. It's about planning, it's about setting expectations, it's about seeing your dependencies, seeing your blockers, and managing those. If something is truly important, like we've got incident support, like if one of our cloud Jira instances goes down, everybody gets a wake-up call. And people immediately jump on video calls, start chatting, start setting up all these things. And then it doesn't matter where you are in the world. It's expected of you to, if this alarm goes off, you wake up, you turn on your PC, you start working. But that's only for P0s and P1s, like the really extreme incidents. Everything else, it can wait some time. Nothing is that serious. And if it is required a midnight meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
One more question behind you.
Hi. If you compare the peaks of the time when you were working on premises and the peaks of your time working as a freelancer from home, when you were bringing more value, when you were more productive?
So I'm more productive working from home. But the weird thing is, for me now, when I do visit one of the Atlassian offices, it's super productive. Because all of my time there is focused on certain things, because I've planned it out all in advance. I used to just work at offices, and then you came in the office, you did some stuff, you went home. Now I go to an office with a purpose. And I focus on those kind of things, I get all of those things done, and then I feel really like I created lots of value. But for me, in general, the time I'm bringing the most value to my company when I work from home.
Okay, thanks.